These days, it can be hard to trust the media. What's true, what's fake, and who is behind the message? I'm a freelance journalist and videographer who has spent years studying the media. Now I'm taking a look at what local, regional, and national news stories mean to us here in North Central Washington. I'm Dominick Bonny, and this is Common Sense. Hello and welcome to Common Sense. I'm Dominick Bonny, and today we're taking a look at Naloxone, commonly referred to by the brand name Narcan. It's a life-saving drug that can stop an opioid overdose in progress and revive someone who has overdosed long enough for them to get to a hospital and get help. Here's a video my company produced for the North Central Accountable Communities of Health, which explains exactly what Narcan does, and in it you will hear 3 individual perspectives on why it's a powerful tool in the fight against the opioid epidemic. One from an overdose survivor who was saved by Narcan, one from a former state senator and NCACH executive director Linda Evans Parlett, and one from a local pastor who works closely with both the homeless and recovery communities.
Naloxone saves lives. Naloxone, also known as Narcan, is a medication that rapidly reverses an opioid overdose. It can reverse and block the effects of an overdose, and it works within minutes of being administered. It's no secret that we are facing an opioid epidemic. There were more than 81,000 overdose deaths between June 2019 and May 2020. This is a new record for the most overdose deaths recorded in a 12-month period. The COVID-19 pandemic played a big part in this because of things like increased social isolation, disruption in the drug supply, and difficulties accessing harm reduction and SUD treatment services. Opioids are drugs that come from the poppy plant or are made in a lab. They can treat pain and coughing and diarrhea, but they can also be very addictive. The number of lives lost to opioid overdoses has risen more than 400% since 2000. But many of those deaths could have been prevented. Part of the prevention plan includes the use of Narcan. If administered the right way, Narcan can work in minutes to reverse the effects of an overdose. It's safe and can be administered by friends and family. You can save a life. First, learn to recognize the signs of an opioid overdose. Is the person having a hard time staying awake? Are they pale? Are their lips blue? Are they making weird sounds, gurgling sounds, or nodding off? Can they speak? Most importantly, are they breathing? Can you wake them up? If you see any of these symptoms, call 911 immediately and get out your Narcan. Narcan can be administered either by nasal spray or through an intramuscular injection in a large muscle. Sometimes more than one dose is needed. A person's breathing will need to be monitored as well while help is on the way. Always follow the instructions provided with your Narcan or Naloxone. Naloxone is an opioid antagonist, which means it blocks opioid receptors from being activated. It is so strongly attracted to the receptors that it knocks other opioids off. The body actually makes its own opioids, which are called endorphins. They help calm the body in times of stress. For example, endorphins help produce the runner's high, which helps marathon runners get through grueling races. But opioid drugs like prescription pain medicines or heroin have much stronger effects and are far more dangerous. Over time, frequent opioid abuse makes the body dependent on the drug. When the opioids are taken away, the body reacts with withdrawal symptoms such as a headache, racing heart, sweating, vomiting, diarrhea, and tremors. These can feel unbearable. With continued use, opioid receptors and the body can build up a tolerance, so more drugs are needed to get high. This makes overdose much more likely. Overdose and its effects can be extremely dangerous, especially how it affects the brainstem. Breathing can be slowed or even stopped altogether. Let's listen to one person whose life was saved by Narcan after an opioid overdose.
The last thing I remember, I was grabbing something to drink, and then I woke up with paramedics surrounding me and telling me that I just overdosed. They had to use 2 doses of Narcan to bring me back to life.
Narcan works for 30 to 90 minutes before the opioids return to their receptors. Narcan saves lives. From 1996 to 2014, at least 26,500 people were saved from opioid overdose by average people like you using Naloxone or Narcan. Every life is worth saving. Let's hear from a local faith leader Pastor Daniel Kellogg about why he sees the need and supports Narcan being available for emergency use in public spaces.
I got to go on a ride-along. It was the first ride-along ever with a police officer, and we showed up to a house, and a guy was on the ground almost dead, and there was a baby screaming and a mom crying, and this was obviously someone's husband and someone's father. And I watched as the paramedics came and saved a man's life right before my eyes. Later on, got to know this guy, got to know his family, and God did something amazing in their life and turned their life around.
Community leaders and public officials also see the benefit of having Narcan in the hands of first responders and available in public places and even the home if you know someone with addiction issues. Here's retired state senator and NCACH executive director Linda Evans Parlett to speak on Narcan's ability to save lives and benefit our communities.
With COVID, we're seeing so many more addictions or troubles, mental health issues and things like that. And so just having more people aware of Narcan and how it can save somebody's life is worthwhile.
Narcan saves lives. To learn more about naloxone, its use, and how it benefits the communities of North Central Washington, visit www.ncach.org/opioid-project.
Stay tuned after the break to hear more of Liza's story and hear Wenatchee Police Chief Steve Crown's thoughts on Narcan.
With PUD rebates, we'll give you money to upgrade your house and reduce your energy footprint.
The rebates are real. Visit conservationmakessense.org to learn more.
Dr. Wayne Latimer's Chiropractic and Integrative Multi-Care specializes in all level of injury care. If you've been injured in an auto accident, on the job, have a sports injury, or a simple fall, call today for a free consultation. They offer a combined multi-care approach with medical, chiropractic, physical therapy, massage, and acupuncture. For relief from long-standing injuries to basic solutions for the weekend warrior, Latimer's Chiropractic Integrative Multi-Care is one stop, one location.
Mary Maids of Wenatchee has been professionally cleaning and sanitizing homes and businesses in North Central Washington since 1998. Mary Maids uses commercial-grade cleaners and viricides. Mary Maids has implemented additional safety and sanitation protocols. They are strictly following CDC guidelines for the safety of their clients and employees. For expert help with cleaning and sanitizing your home or business, call or look up Mary Maids of Wenatchee to schedule your free estimate today.
Stay active and independent for life. SAIL is an evidence-based strength, balance, and fitness program. The exercises in a SAIL class have been packaged into a formal regimen focusing on 4 key areas important to the health and fitness of mature participants: low-impact cardiovascular, balance work, strength training, and stretching. SAIL classes are designed for people of all fitness levels and can be done sitting or standing. Join us for SAIL on the NCWLIFE channel. Check your listing for days and times.
Welcome back. Let's learn more about Liza's story.
I moved to Wenatchee about 4 years ago. I just got a treatment from Los Angeles, California, and I came here to start a new life. I was very involved. I was doing service work, and I even became a mom. After 2 years, I ended up getting complacent, and I started to drink. At first, alcohol wasn't a problem for me, or so I thought, and that lasted a few months. And then one day, I ran into somebody who was still using. I ended up getting triggered. And next thing you know, we were on a mission to go get high. I remember being in the kitchen, and I remember feeling scared because I have overdose in the past before, and I was scared it was going to happen again. And then next thing you know, the last thing I remember, I was grabbing something to drink, and then I woke up with paramedics surrounding me and telling me that I just overdosed. They had to use 2 doses of Narcan to bring me back to life. After that, I was forced to go to a hospital so that they can check on me. When I got home, I remember I started crying because I just thought about like what it would have been like if my son had to grow up without his mom. And so immediately I knew I had to jump back into, since then I got very involved again. I'm staying connected. I'm even almost done with my bachelor's degree, and I got to be there for my son's 2nd and 3rd birthday. And by the grace of God, I will be celebrating 18 months clean on February 14th. The reason Narcan is important to me is because, speaking for myself, I wasn't a bad person. I was sick, and if I would have lost my life short, I wouldn't have accomplished any of the things. So I know that there's people out there that they just need a chance, and maybe that's the one time that they get to make a difference. If everybody just died because Narcan wasn't available, then who knows what life would have looked like. I do think Narcan should be accessible to the public. I think it should be available at pharmacies and where a person can easily go get it and have it in their possession. You just never know. It's such an epidemic that you never know. You may come across and somebody overdose and you can save somebody's life. Before, when I overdosed, I never had a kid before. So it affected me, but not impactful as just imagining my son, growing up without his mom and what trauma that could have done for him. And so, yeah, since then I make sure that I never go. I mean, as much as I don't want to go to meetings all the time, I still go because I know that's what's going to save me. Honestly, I think, I owe my life a lot to Narcan, and it was one of those things where I'm just lucky that I got so many chances. I know it could have easily been a different situation. I wouldn't be here. And I just hope that, even people who are using are at least have Narcan with them, because you never know. Hopefully one day they'll decide to come in the rooms and by the grace of God, they're here,
Her life was saved by paramedics after they gave her Narcan for an opioid overdose. She's in recovery now and credits those paramedics and Narcan for saving her life and ensuring her son still has. She's almost completed her bachelor's degree and has gotten her life back on track. That brush with death could have robbed her little boy of a mother that clearly loves and cares for him very much. Everyone deserves a second chance, and because those paramedics had Narcan, Liza got one. After the break, we'll sit down with Wenatchee Police Chief Steve Crown and hear his thoughts about the effectiveness of Narcan as an emergency response tool, and hear about one of his officers who had to receive a dose of Narcan after he suffered a dangerous exposure to fentanyl.
Homeward bound, I wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping. Home, where my music's playing. Home, where my love lies waiting silently for me. Silently for me.
Today we're doing some employee development with our technicians.
Today we're going to learn how to give our home a hug.
It's not just a motto, but a unique way that Patriot technicians care for your home.
Oh, no, come on. You really got to get in there and get your arms around it, give it a good embrace. All right, hey, good job.
I think the training is going really well.
Heating and cooling, we'll give your home a hug.
Bring the whole family up to Stormy Mountain Brewing and local public house in historic downtown Chelan. Applewood smoked brisket, street-style tacos, and our award-winning barbecue rubs and sauces. Our meals pair perfectly with our exciting lineup of craft ales, made right here in Chelan. We've got room for big groups, or give us a call for catering. So grab the kids and check out the fun at Stormy Mountain Brewing and local public house located in the heart of Chelan.
Hey everyone, Fletcher and Amy Ellingson here from Live It Up. Join us every week as we answer your questions on health, wealth, and relationships.
We're all about you creating a life that you love, so tune in to Live It Up.
Could you tell me, I guess, what your thoughts are on the medication and relate the story of the officer, the Wenatchee Police Department officer, who had to have a Narcan dose administered to him?
Right. So I would say that, without a doubt, opioid addiction has been going on for years. It affects every state in the nation. Our community is no different than that. And Naloxone, Narcan, it is a medication that simply saves lives. When time is of an essence in any sort of medical event, having the right medication on hand, it really makes a difference between that individual going to the morgue or going to the hospital and getting additional treatments. So it's super important to us. We know that there have been a number of saves in the community where if we didn't have it, more than likely that individual would have passed away from overdose, and it would have been tragic for family members, friends, and any other involved person with that individual that overdosed. So we put high importance on it, enough importance that we engaged with partners in our valley and law enforcement and came up with a plan to actually implement at every level within our organizations a Narcan distribution plan where when we roll up on those calls and an individual is either exhibiting indications that they've had an overdose or unconscious and have some of those factors in place. We're able to administer that, gives us enough time for emergency services to arrive on scene and start their work because you're not done there. The individual has to be transported to the hospital, and then medical staff at the hospital take it the next step further, which is getting them back to normal as possible. So high value, high importance. It's not just an individual that overdoses through their own desire to use the drug. We've had accidental overdoses in law enforcement as well. One of our officers was actually working a case where there was a suspected amount of opioids inside of a container, and when working to open the container was exposed to fentanyl. And just for reference, imagine a sugar packet, the size of that sugar packet. There's enough dosages of pure fentanyl in a sugar packet size container to literally be lethal to 500 people. So that's a very potent drug. The thing that we know in law enforcement is you don't know who made that stuff, whether it's a counterfeit pill or it's actually a patch that is stolen from some person that might be using it medically. You just don't know the potency unless it's written on the label, and then I wouldn't trust it either unless you're under the care of a physician. So that's really where it starts with our officer. Immediately started feeling the effects of the fentanyl. It's very nasty stuff. There's different derivatives of fentanyl that carfentanil is the veterinary version of it. If you get some of that on your hand, it can be absorbed into your nervous system through blood transfusion through your body. So it's super important to have something on hand like this. Since that accidental exposure, we've changed protocols. We now have our AED mounted next to where our facility is for intaking of drugs or examination. We've got a Narcan supply very readily available in there because we handle a lot of evidence, and a lot of times when it gets seized, it may appear to be something, but it may be something completely different, and it could end up being a container for some of these drugs. So it's super important to have a trained staff that understands how to administer it, and then the follow-up steps, which are get them up to the hospital because you're not done, and you need to make sure that a physician is alerted and when you have a patient coming in. So all those pieces are in place, from Rivercom, who does our dispatching, right down to our most junior officer. They really understand the importance, the expedience that's involved, and what their role and responsibility for administering this stuff and doing it right. There are some techniques that need to be, but this is an example of the product. It is a nasally induced medication, so once you remove it from its packaging, it goes up into the nostril, and it's an aerosol. So one pump delivers the entire dose, and it's pretty easy. Comes with a set of instructions, but we train to it. This product is looks pretty small, but that is $70 worth of medication that if we really didn't have a source for helping us through a grant, it'd be highly expensive to keep that on hand. But you always need to have a supply, probably more than what you need, so that it is readily available to our officers. And our officers carry this in each one of their bags and are in a box so that they can be easily administered. This is its only use. You really can't abuse this stuff. It has such a specific function that it really can't be used for anything else.
And so how long have the officers been carrying these, and can you give me a ballpark idea of how many lives it's saved or how many times it's been administered?
So we've been carrying these since about 2017. I just pulled some recent stats. We're doing a little bit different way of keeping our data. So to give you an idea, since October of 2020 to current date, we've administered 5 Narcan containers. I would say that it was 5 incidents, more than just the container, because as we talked about earlier, these are sometimes one does not totally bring the person back to a lucid state, and that's what you're searching for, is some sort of response. So sometimes it takes 2 doses, and that is all dependent upon the amount, what kind, duration, metabolism of the individual. So all those factors really play into how effective it is at the time. And you know, sometimes it doesn't work, and that again is one of those true tragedies when you're dealing with opioid addiction.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, some folks say, I'm playing the devil's advocate here, but some folks say, well, this might just enable future addiction or drug use. I mean, is that a valid point in your mind? I mean, I have not, I have had fentanyl administered to me in the hospital. I remember it was a very small amount, and I had a broken femur, and it felt like somebody was laying a set of bricks on my chest. You know, I just felt like everything was dampening. I can't imagine wanting to do that for recreational purposes. Right. So I don't know what it's like to have an overdose, but it seems like, and I've spoken with people who have overdosed, and it is not a pleasant experience. Do you think Narcan could be an enabler?
I think that the same factors exist with somebody that is addicted, and honestly, it's a roll of the dice every time you take a dose of opioids. That sensation, that feeling that you felt under the care of a physician, that's what they're experiencing. It literally gives that euphoria, but it's also followed with the overdose effects that are in line with shutting down the respiratory system. Circulation becomes an issue, and there's a whole host of other things that are the side effect of the euphoria that comes with the dosage. I don't think it's necessarily an enabler. It really is, back to my original statement, it is a life-saving medication that's out there, and there's other means that I think that society can use to try and get somebody off of drugs. Of late, the one thing that's been extremely discouraging to law enforcement is the Washington State Supreme Court ruling that made simple possession of drugs unconstitutional. That's going to have an impact, probably far more than administering Narcan, because there is no legal means for getting somebody into treatment other than somebody that has been criminally justice affected. And so things like night court, drug court, could be affected by that, because it is that individual that possessed drugs that is the logical candidate to put into drug court. And without that factor, that weighing circumstance that, hey, you're going to spend more time in jail. Granted, you're going to probably be sober during your time in jail, and you're able to think a little bit better and maybe even make some better choices while you're in there. But it's no treatment facility. Diverting people out of our criminal justice system and getting them into programs is a lot better than just walking away from the situation. And that's what concerns me community-wise and on a statewide level, is that some of those cases are simply not going to have any results from them, and we're going to lose a tool out of our toolbox.
So there you have it. Naloxone saves lives, and both the recovery community and the law enforcement community recognize its value to our society. If you want to learn more about Narcan, you can do so with a simple Google search, or check out this link on the NCACH's website. Join me next week on Common Sense as we take a look at a therapeutic farm for vets called Charlie Foxtrot Farms in Pateros, and highlight a local man who takes to the streets of Wenatchee at night to offer homeless folks simple things like hot chocolate, socks, and a listening ear.
to date with what's happening in North Central Washington, go to the NCWLIFE community calendar at ncwlife.com.